Hey guys, what's poppin'? Jacques Slade here, and this is the Nike Air Zoom GT Cut. It's Nike basketball's newest signature performance sneaker. Not a signature as in it's tied to any single athlete, but a signature in a way that makes it unique and a new leader for the brand. And quick spoiler alert, so you don't have to watch the full video, I don't think this shoe is going to make a huge impression on the consumer at the end of the day. I'll explain why later in the video, so stay tuned for that. But also, don't take that to mean that this shoe isn't good, because it is good. It's actually, I would say, really good, and I really enjoyed it for the limited time I was able to shoot around in it. The shoe is legit. I have a few thoughts that I think will make all of this come together, but first, let's give it a proper unboxing. Packaging wise, nothing fancy is happening with this version I received from Nike, but we do get a little storytelling happening through the box. You have what I am assuming is the GT logo on the top of the box and on the lip. You get a few different logos that show up on the tissue paper as well, like the actual greater than logo and the basketball space logo, which has a lot to do with the overall philosophy of the sneaker, which we'll dig into in just a bit. Outside of that, you just have the size tag, which I'll say is a bit misleading. I wore these with the Jordan equivalent of Elite socks, and they were really tight in the forefoot area. I usually rock an 11 or 11 and a half, but if you're going to wear thicker socks, you might be better moving up a half size. Part of that size difference could be based on the shoe's construction, which is what I think makes this shoe really so great. Now, visually, the Nike Air Zoom GT looks fast. The sleek lines that trail down the lateral side and the medial side really help set the tone and give the shoe a very dynamic look that I think works with the current flow and the feel of the game of basketball. Now, the bigger, bulkier styles that we often associate with basketball are slowly but surely being just phased out for the slimmer models that almost look like basketball versions of running shoes. It's a trend that I am actually really excited about, and I think it's going to lead to further innovation in this space. This pair, well, it rocks a primarily black upper. That wasn't the first thing I noticed when taking them out of the box though. It was actually the weight. Not that the shoes are heavy, but they feel solid. The quality of the construction is top notch, and though we see the Nike basketball team using a few different materials and innovation on the upper, they blend really well together and create what I would call a pretty seamless package. Now, material-wise, we have a few things going on. The most notable is the mesh that's around the midfoot that lies right beneath this Nike swoosh right here. It's actually separated into two sections. The front plays up the React that is inside the shoe and hints at it through that infrared color that you can see right there beneath the surface. It is the same color as React and gives the illusion that you're actually seeing React, but it isn't. It's just a thin layer of material that should help with airflow in the shoe. Now, the second part of the mesh lays around the top of the thicker padding that wraps the ankle and the Achilles, this section here. It's a nice chunk of padding. I'd say about maybe a ½ inch to an inch thick, and it feels a bit like memory foam. I don't think that's actually what it is, but that is definitely what it reminds me of when I put them on. Now, right outside of the heel mesh section, you have a small outrigger that provides some additional support for the insole. It isn't particularly robust, and I believe the sole purpose is to help contain the React insole from moving too much when you cut. Now, looking towards the toe of the shoe is where we have the backed mesh on the medial and lateral sides here and here. But the primary material holding things together and providing support is the neoprene-like fabric that feels like it has a slight bit of padding underneath it. There are also a series of cutouts that should help with airflow. Now, the same material trails up the tongue and feels a bit more purposeful there. The tongue is separated into pods, for lack of a better word, that should serve to give some relief from any pressure points from the laces. When playing in this pair, it was immediately obvious why they included the extra padding on the tongue. Because of the shoe's unique shape that kind of stays relatively flat through the ankle area, the movement required when your foot is changing directions can cause some pressure points if you keep your laces tied too tight. These pods eliminate that almost completely. You get 3 pods on the top side of the tongue, and then there's also a hidden section that's right underneath here. It's a larger pod that sits on the reverse of the tongue, and it's literally one of those things that you wouldn't even know it was there unless you looked for it. I didn't notice it until I started to look for it, and it does its job so well that it's not really something that's going to jump out at you. Now, you also get some extra cutouts here on the tongue as well, which make me think they received quite a bit of feedback about the heat generated with the materials that they used on the upper, and the holes provided some necessary relief from that add up or build up of heat. Speaking of hidden tech, there are 2 things that you wouldn't notice just looking at the shoe, but they definitely help the fit and the feel of the GT cut. First, we should talk about the GT. If you haven't guessed by now, it stands for greater than. The goal of this shoe, according to Nike Basketball, is to be and achieve greater than. Now, at the pro level, we have to realize that this means small gains, milliseconds of time that can mean the difference between a block shot, a rebound, or an assist. The strategy is sound. It gives athletes everything that they need in the place they need it to achieve that goal. This shoe, the GT Cut, is a part of that equation. The cut version of the GT story that is built on the premise of getting low and getting a better feel for the ground. For, as the name implies, cutting and changing direction. As part of that design philosophy, the team included something not exactly new to this shoe, but it isn't exactly common either, a drop-in midsole. We've seen this come in and out of fashion over the years, and with this iteration of the concept, we may be hitting a bit of a sweet spot for Nike. The use of React has obviously exploded over the last few years, and basketball has had the benefit of seeing it in action for a pretty long time now. For the GT Cut, you get a full-length, technically removable React unit that provides the responsiveness and comfort directly underfoot. If you've run in React before, you know exactly how this feels, though I would say that this feels a bit more firm. From shooting around in them, I suggest it was because there is so much going on in between the React and the ground that you actually lose some of the softness we often associate with the tech. As you can see, it's a nice chunk of React, and my thought is, I wonder why they made it removable. I can see if it was part of a system that allows you to switch out the insole for a different version, but I haven't figured that part out exactly. I actually reached out to some friends at Nike for some insight, and if I don't hear back before this video goes live, I'll make sure to tweet it out as a follow-up, so make sure you follow me over at Cousteau. Now, once we get beneath the React insole, you have one of my favorite things that Nike Basketball has been doing. It's the Zoom Strobel board. Nike is calling it a parabolic Zoom Strobel, which is a fancy way of saying that the unit has a curve to it that gives you the sensation of being propelled forward. This is one area where I don't think I experienced the full benefit of the technology. When I read about it, I thought it was going to give me a sensation similar to like the Zoom Alpha Fly running shoes, but this didn't feel that way at all. In fact, I say I didn't really feel the Zoom Strobel at all. Because the React unit is such a thick boy, you lose a lot of that feeling you normally get out of the Zoom Strobel, like in the AJ1 Comfort or in any of KD's past shoes. It was one of the items that I can say I was disappointed in because I'm such a fan of the way that it feels and hope that Nike actually includes the Zoom Strobel in a bunch of their other basketball and casual silhouettes. Okay, stick with me because this is where things start to get a bit weird, at least from my perspective. So the GT Cut features React and a Zoom Strobel, which in most cases would be enough for a decent pair of basketball shoes, but they're also taking things a step further, and they're also including a Zoom unit here at the heel. In essence, you have two pieces of Zoom below your foot at the heel, giving you double impact protection and double the responsiveness you would normally get. Because I typically play lighter on my toes than on my heels, I was only really able to feel the impact of the Zoom unit in the heel every once in a while. As with all Zoom units, the unit is nice and responsive and gives you the kick that you need when dropping back or landing after a rebound. I just didn't feel it much, and the stacking is in part responsible for the shape of the Zoom Strobel, which I didn't feel as much either. While I was collecting my thoughts for this video, I actually tried them on again just to make sure I wasn't missing something, and while I know it isn't supposed to feel exactly like the previously mentioned shoes, I did expect a different sensation on the heel to toe transition. It could be possible that because there is more surface area at the toe, which gives me a better chance of feeling that zoom, that I'm favoring my toes with my movements on and off the court, but instead of feeling like there was a forward transition happening, it felt more neutral than anything else. As far as traction goes, Nike Basketball kept the rubber pretty thin with modified computer-generated traction patterns that felt good on the court that I was using. Mind you, I live in a pretty dusty area and outside courts are notorious for being terrible. I admittedly wasn't playing full-on basketball, but based on a few movements here and there, I didn't feel like I was losing my grip. The rubber is a little on the softer side though, so I don't think you'll get a lot of life out of these if you primarily play outside, but if these are your go-to shoes inside, you should be money. In addition to the traction benefit you get with the slightly softer rubber, you also get a better feel for the court. With the GD cut, you feel the court a bit better, and the React, Zoom Strobel, and Zoom unit provide that protection and responsiveness to help buffer the feel of the concrete. You can also see that the design team did a great job of containing all of that tech under the midsole of this shoe. They added this stabilizer guardrail here on the lateral side that seamlessly bends into the design of the shoe. You also get an extra bit of rubber right here near the toe on the medial side that curves up from the outsole. A lot of it is shaped just like the React insole drop-in, which itself actually rolls up around your foot to, I would say, almost cradle into the shoe and give your foot like that perfect position for cutting and changing direction. It's a really smooth package that I think was thoughtful and considerate when it came to the design and the function of the shoe. So with all that being said, what is the final verdict on the shoe? Well, as I said earlier, the shoe is good. In fact, I'd say the shoe is really good. The performance is there, the feel is right, the traction is good, the heel to toe transition isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I wouldn't hold that against the shoe. I came in with an expectation based on a totally different category, and maybe that was my fault for approaching it that way. On paper, this shoe has everything you want in a basketball shoe. A drop-in React midsole, Zoom Strobel unit, thin rubber outsole to give you a better court feel, and a Zoom unit in the heel that should give you some impact protection and responsiveness for those hard and long days on the court. But that is where the story changes for me on this shoe. Looking at all the tech and the experiences I have had with the tech in the past, the combination of all those doesn't seem to translate on the court. Maybe I need to give them some more runs to get the full experience, but from the couple of hours I spent shooting around and the day and a half I've spent wearing them casually, they didn't live up to what I expected. They were almost like a new mobile phone that has all of the latest bells and whistles, but they just don't seem to work together in a way that made the experience better. It just felt the same. And at the current price of $170, it makes the GT cut an even harder pill to swallow when the performance doesn't seem to exceed what else is on the market that doesn't have all of this extra tech and consideration built in. But again, the shoe is good. That is not really what the question is about. If you bought these, which I would say make sure you go up a half side, they're going to feel nice. The React is good, the Zoom unit hits right, and the upper is soft and padded in all the right places. But, and that is the toughest part about it, there is a but when I think about it and add everything up. And that's why the concept and idea of the Greater Than series of shoes from Nike Basketball excites me. The potential of what the series could lead to and what new sneakers will spring forth from this one. I feel like this is more of a prototype, and the models that are inspired by this will be the pairs that really change the way we think about basketball sneakers. So, those are my first impressions of the Nike Air Zoom GT. They drop later this month in North America and should cost you right around $170. I'm Jacques Slade. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.